Usually you have to wait until the fall to see a good political debate, but today you're in luck. Since we're in Washington, D.C., and since control of the Congress is on the line just a few months from now, we decided to stage our own debate between the two parties. To set the stage for you briefly, you know that Republicans now control the House. To take it back, Democrats need to gain 17 seats this November, something that's very hard for the party that controls the White House to do in a midterm election. But if you were watching our show yesterday, then you heard the second-ranking Democrat in the House, it's Marilyn Steny-Hoyer, tell us that Democrats are going to hit that number this fall and are going to take back the House. So who should control the House? Who will control the House after November? We're here to hash it out. We have Emily Bittner. She's the National Press Secretary for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, you may know that as. Representing the Republicans is Daniel Scarpinato. He's the National Press Secretary for the National Republican Congressional Committee. So welcome to both of you. Thanks for joining us. So I think maybe to set the scene for this, I'm going to just put two sort of contrasting poll numbers up on the screen and ask you to respond. And this is the overall, Gallup took this poll about 2 months ago, the favorable, unfavorable number for both parties, for your parties. Among Republicans, it clocked in at 34 favorable, 59 unfavorable. Among Democrats, it clocked in at 44 favorable, 50 unfavorable. And so, you know, Daniel, I look at that and I say those are not great numbers for either party, but that's a 10-point gap right there. That's 10% who have a more who have a favorable view of Democrats than Republicans. Seems like the brand might be an issue here for Republicans.
You know, in congressional races, I really don't think it is. I think people vote on the candidates and the members of Congress themselves who are running. I think that's the approval, the individual person's approval that matters, and them separating themselves from the problems in Washington. The other thing that is a real issue here is the president's approval rating, which is in the tank in every
we have that up
district.
Yeah, we can put that up on the screen. Actually, I think we have this week's Gallup poll is at 40% approve and 53% disapprove.
And it's even worse when you look at the races in the states and the districts where these races are playing out. I haven't seen one poll, including in places where Obama won the vote in 2012, where he is not underwater with voters. He's very unpopular, and I don't think the Democrats would want to send him to any of these races in the country because he'd actually hurt their candidates.
So Emily, maybe you can respond to that. He's saying, okay, that national brand for the party isn't going to matter. These are individual races, and the president's numbers are going to be a drag on Democrats. So what do you say to that?
Well, he can't have it both ways. He can't have it be a race about the president and a race about individuals, right? So there's some dissonance there. But they're desperate to have the 2014 elections be about anyone but House Republicans. I mean, if you look at House Republicans' brand, it's even worse than Republicans in general. They are at historic low approval ratings, and that's because everything the American people want, they are blocking. So whether it's equal pay, instead we're getting shutdowns. Whether it's raising the minimum wage, they're raising the specter of impeachment. And so time and time again, when you see 2/3 of Americans in support of a common sense idea, I'll show you 234 Republicans to oppose it.
But it is about the president, with all due respect, because, and I challenge you to name me one congressional district where you would want the president and Nancy Pelosi to go visit, and you probably can't name them because he's so unpopular. And the races in these districts are about having a check and balance on the president. That's what voters want, and that's why many of Emily's own Democratic candidates are throwing the president under the bus. They can't get away from him fast enough.
I think we've seen House Republicans in power now since 2010, when the Tea Party was this new, shiny object, and the American people have seen what it means to have the Tea Party in power, and they are rejecting House Republicans and their agenda. We've had 3 elections about President Obama. It's time to have an election about House Republicans.
Well, now, that's I think I don't know if we put that on the screen yet, but that's the other thing we have here is the Tea Party's favorable, unfavorable score. You got the Republican number at 34-59. When you look at the Tea Party, 30-51. So, Daniel, you're saying just a minute ago, you challenged the Democrats. Would you want President Obama campaigning for you? Do you embrace the label Tea Party, or is that a liability for you guys this year?
You know, there's different candidates are going to run different campaigns in different districts. The greatest thing about our candidates this cycle is they fit their districts. They have differences on the issues. I mean, our party does not speak with one voice. The other part of this is that this election in many ways is about competence. And even liberal Democrats are not happy with the president because they don't think he has competently executed the programs they want. If you wanted Obamacare and you supported Obamacare, you cannot be happy with this administration because they have done such a bad job executing that and so many other issues. And I think that's a big part of the election. election here.
You know, Steve, you asked him such an interesting question about surrogates. If you're a Republican, the surrogates you have are people like Sarah Palin or Ted Cruz or Todd Akin. I mean, we're proud of the surrogates that we have on the Democratic side of the aisle, and they are going to try to do everything they can to make this election about anyone but
the president should go visit some of these districts because he hasn't. We'll pay the plane ticket. I mean, he just goes to Hollywood, Manhattan, Chicago, and raises millions of dollars. He doesn't go to any of these districts.
We're short on time, but I want to squeeze one other thing here quickly because we've been talking about immigration on this show. If there's nothing done on the border, let alone comprehensive immigration reform, I mean, we've been talking about this since the end of the 2012 election. For your party, Daniel, if there's no immigration reform this fall, that was the great promise of the Republicans in 2012, wasn't it? We're going to turn around and do it.
I don't think passing a bill in the middle of the night that no one's read, that's an Obamacare-style bill, is going to help anyone. House Republicans have said we want to take a step-by-step approach to this problem, but I think with the current crisis that's happening, we got to take politics out and actually pass something and come together and do what makes sense, and border security has to be first.
Emily, the last word here.
My gosh, it was more than a year ago that the Senate, in a bipartisan way, passed a comprehensive immigration bill that Barack Obama, George Bush, the U.S. Chamber, the faith community all support. They're just dragging their feet on solutions for the American people so that they can sue the president. That's what they did this week. They didn't try to hold hearings on the border. They held hearings on a lawsuit against the president.
All right, that's going to be the last word. We're about 100 days from the election day, so this last word right now won't be the last word of this campaign. My thanks to Emily Bittner with the DCCC, Daniel Scarpinato of the NRCC. Appreciate it. And coming up, the wage gap and the gender gap collide in one of the week's most controversial articles.